I was such an outsider, I was so alienated when I was young that drawing was like my only connection to society. That was the thing that was going to, like, the only thing I could see that was going to save me from a really dismal fate of, God knows what, a complete and total loser. I couldn't do anything else. I had no other skills. No social skills were completely nil when I was young. Gradually learned over the years how to relate to people better. As young, I had a lot of problem with that. So drawing, and thinks, okay, and all of a sudden then I, had this fucked up ego. One side, this narcissistic, I'm a great artist, yada. On the other hand, I'm a completely inept fuck up, on the other side, so there was that too, so I've got to leave my mark on this earth and as a great artist, and yet I had that when I was young, very strongly actually. It drove me, because the other side was so powerful too, the negative self-image, so I didn't understand this at the time, that I had these two sides to me that's all figured that all later on, And the only way I could do it was by just spending all my time on artwork and just, working on that craft constantly, I had nothing else. I really had nothing else. Being born in 1943, and I came of age in the 50s, and at the end of the 50s, there started being some cartoonists who were more personal, like Jules Feiffer. I don't know if you know his work, a little more personal. And I was very inspired by Harvey Kurtzman's satire and all that. So you start to feel your way. It was, cartooning comic books up to that time in a very low-grade medium. You had superheroes, and then you had funny animal characters, and you had Archie teenage comics, and war comics, crime comics, science fiction comics. There wasn't anything really like in the comic book world that was a personal artistic expression of the artist himself, that just didn't exist, wasn't there. And being a comic book artist was the lowest level of commercial art. Comic book artists were embarrassed to admit that that's what they did for a living in those days. But being an outcast and alienated person, and feeling my way and my ego, I thought, I'll push toward a more personal use of this medium. And then when I did those hippie comics with LSD-inspired stuff, and that went over with the hippies liked that, and then that gave me more confidence to get even more personal. That's when I started actually drawing like these crazy sexual fantasies and all that, which alienated half the population. All the women went away when I did that. Well, when I was young, I did comic strips about, that one angry strip about with the nuns in it, where the nuns want to chop off my penis. So that was like a more obvious reaction to going to Catholic school and all that. But growing up, being in Catholic school and going to church and all that stuff, and getting this programming from a young age obviously affected my mental development in some way that is very particular. When you're raised in that kind of extreme religious ideas about heaven and hell and all that stuff, I've gotten to the point now where I look at it as a kind of brain damaging thing for children to program them like that with that stuff. And then when I started to question that, and I didn't start questioning it until I became like a social outcast as a teenager. And then I start questioning things, just to try to understand what happened to you. Why? What is this about? How did this happen? Why am I a social outcast? What's wrong with me? You start to look at things to get some distance, and also you're not completely like tied up with teenage activities. You got a lot of time on your hands because you're sitting at home. As they start to question, and then when that all fell apart, Catholic faith fell apart. It's just, wow, this is just it's a bunch of nonsense. So then you just start to look at the world differently. Oh, everything's up for question. So I remember the moment when I was like 17 or 16 when that happened, and I realized everything is up for question. question everything. But there's so many hidden assumptions in any culture that, you just keep digging and just keep digging, I'm still digging. But, what you realize is that humans have a lot of trouble with the truth. There's just so many layers of deception and delusion, different kinds of lies and deceptions, political, religious, economic, moral, all of that, I just have to keep examining it all. We are creatures that are always morally evolving. So we're constantly dealing with the moral issues, constantly, and that religion is part of that. It's some way to deal with the moral issues of behavior and empathy for others. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And Jesus' thing about we're all brothers, we're all in this together, and all that stuff. And meanwhile, there's tribal rivalries and political rivalries and the gender battle, and there's all this stuff. And how do you behave? How do you behave toward other people? That's just a ongoing, evolving. Hopefully, it's evolving. That we're getting nicer, or what one would hope. I don't know. It's an open question. Was drawing comics therapy for me? It was, I guess you could call it therapy. I don't know. It was kind of just a way of coping with the world, just a way of dealing with reality. I was so afraid and alienated, a frightened little boy. And being programmed to enter the world of work. Where am I going to fit into this? I was not interested in, how I was incompetent at anything that would give me a position of anything in business except mopping floors or something, in that world. I had my family was kind of lower middle class, and there was no money to go to college or anything.